while. Just wanted to give you guys a quick heads up before the episode starts. My audio got corrupted for the first 12 minutes. I was able to restart it after that point, so it's completely normal past that. However, for my review, it's going to sound a little bit weird, so please just keep that in mind as you're listening. It does get better.
The Film Basement is filmed in sunny West Hartford, Connecticut, in front of a live studio audience.
Welcome to the Filmmaker's Basement, where our corporate overlord has finally decided to stop by. I'm Brandon.
Andrew.
And Jimmy.
And we're going to be talking about some of the movies and television shows that we saw this week. In addition to having something a little bit different, we're going to be talking about a short film that's going to be getting made soon. But on that note, let me just dive into the movie I saw this week, which is Belle. So, Belle is about a high school student that becomes a globally beloved singer after entering a fantastic virtual world. She soon embarks on an emotional and epic quest to uncover the identity of a mysterious beast who's on the run from ruthless vigilantes. So, I think overall, it's a very technically impressive movie. It does a really good job of blending 2D and 3D animation into a very interesting kind of like middle ground. Essentially, whenever they're in this VR world, the world goes into 3D. It kind of gets that weird like 3D animation vibe to it, like you see with like VR chat and all those kind of clients. But when it's in the real world, in the world of the movie, it goes into 2D, into a very well-drawn 2D animation. And together they present like again, it's really cool how they integrate into each other, because you can really feel like the presence of the virtual world when you're in there based off how it's animated. And when you're in the real world, you feel like, I don't know, it feels more real. It feels more grounded being based off of like that hand-drawn animation. So I love that. And again, in addition to that, it just looks beautiful. Like the movie is very well animated. And it utilizes that space of animation so well to create like very stunning scenes. For instance, the world they dive into is essentially this like weird city where it's like Inception, if you've ever seen that, how like where that part of the movie where like they turn the world upside down and like they bend that city block so it's upside down. It looks like that, where there's part of the city that's like hanging upside down, and there's another part of it that's coming up out of the ground, and it meshes together really well. It presents this really cool vibe for this whole scene, in addition to a lot about the other like backgrounds that we get throughout the movie. They look amazing. Additionally, the music is very good. The person in this movie who like I said, becomes a globally famous singer, like the songs are good. They're bops. They really pop off and enhance the movie on its own. I will say they are kind of forgettable, just a little bit, but like while you're watching the movie, they really pop off and get you into the scene that it's going there. So I did enjoy those a lot. However, I do think the story is kind of lacking. I was talking to some of my friends about this after I saw the movie, and they were commenting how it felt like the movie had gotten like parts of it cut off, because while it's a 2-hour long movie, it feels like there's a lot missing from it. Which, first off, is not a sign of a good movie. And second, it's bad that you can tell those parts are really missing. Because, I don't know, there's like whole characters' motivations that feel weird, like there was something more behind them that was missing. And there's other characters who don't feel fleshed out at all, but they're supposed to be very important to the story. A good example of this is the main character's love interest. He's very bland. Like, nothing happens with him throughout this whole movie. And somehow you're supposed to believe she's falling in love with him, but like there's just nothing. That he has the personality of stale white bread. Like there's just nothing there. So I don't know what was going on there, but it definitely feels like there's something missing from here. Additionally, it doesn't really play around with the world it creates, and for me at least, it left me with a lot of questions. For instance, we do get a lot of like shots of this cityscape that the VR players essentially live in and interact in and like access other parts of the VR world through, but we don't see much of that other VR world. Like it feels like there's a world out there that they just didn't take the time or energy to explore. And for me, at least, that left a lot missing. Like I wanted to know what was going on, like what kind of games are these people playing? Like what is like, I don't know, like a chat room look like here? Like there's so much to explore and it's not touched at all, which is just kind of, which could be fine, I guess, if this rest of the story had been like up to par, but it really was not. I'm kind of playing off that. It feels like there's a lot missing thematically from the movie because it's very focused on this idea of like what happens when someone goes viral and how does that like affect them, in addition to how does internet culture affect people. And it's just like, it's just not really well explored. Like the high school student, like again, she does become famous out of nowhere. It's essentially an overnight thing where she's suddenly this world famous singer, but they don't really do much with it outside of that. Like there is admittedly an aspect to it where she's like hiding her identity. She doesn't want people to know who she is, but it's beyond that. There's just not much there. And it's a shame because it feels like there really could be a lot there, especially because this movie feels like it's very focused towards kids. Like I don't know, there's so much to explore and it's missing, kind of like how I was saying with the View Our World earlier. Additionally, there's like some kind of imagery that was very lame, I guess is a good way of putting it. And what I mean by that is, how do I say this? Like the story ends up centering on this like abuse narrative. Essentially, the main character finds out there's this kid being abused online who's very famous within the world itself. And she makes it kind of her goal to find him and help him. But like, first off, his character is essentially a lone wolf who literally, he looks like a wolf who's on his own, who has like bruises in his back. It's a lot, and it's just kind of like way too on the nose to be like at all good. It just feels really weird. Additionally, that character's, again, he's just very edgy. Like it's just not a well designed or well thought out like focus for the movie. And leading off of that, I will also say the ending does feel very off. It essentially ends with the main character finding this kid who's being abused and like standing up to that kid's dad, but like how does like a 15-year-old kid stand up to like a 30-year-old well-built man? I don't know. It seems very far out and kind of disingenuous and like very confusing with the rest of the movie. So overall, cool looking movie. I thought visually it was amazing. The music was popping. It explored some really cool ideas within animation itself, but the story itself is very lackluster. So I don't think I could recommend seeing it.
I'd never heard of this movie. It's called Belle.
Belle.
There's a creature in it.
That's
it's animated.
The creature is the kid who's getting abused, essentially.
Right.
Yeah.
It sounds a lot like, is it in Japanese? I looked it up and there's because I saw that there's the voice actors were mainly Japanese.
Yeah.
So it's an anime that's like a Ready Player One Beauty and the Beast ripoff.
Almost kind of like scarily Beauty and the Beast, if that makes sense. They literally rip off that scene.
Belle.
They literally rip off that scene where where Belle and the Beast are dancing in the ballroom. It's like the exact same thing. Literally frame for frame. It is almost the exact same scene.
And it's called Belle. It has a beast in it. Like I was just sitting here listening to you talk about it. I'm like, it sounds like Beauty and the Beast, but like just futuristic.
Kind of like, but that's kind of where it ends, is like that. It's not, I don't know. I know, like, I get what you're saying because I did see that in the movie, especially during that one scene. But besides that, it doesn't really follow it along all that well.
Well, no, I didn't expect it to be a 1-for-1 ripoff, but it has that thematic elements to the story.
Yeah.
Of a, I guess, tortured soul that is trying to find his way back to reality, I guess, in this kind of aspect. It's just kind of what it sounds like.
Yeah, except just not as well told, I would say. Yeah. Which is unfortunate because it looked like a cool premise on paper. And again, I will say visually very stunning. Like if you want a pretty movie to look at, it is definitely that. And especially pretty movie with poppin' music.
So I've been so busy with it's my last week of work, and I'm leaving my job. So I'm gonna have more time to actually go to the movies. So I haven't really gone to the theater since before Christmas, Spider-Man and for Matrix. So I just figured I'd talk about a Disney Plus show. Well, I did see Encanto, but that was at my house. But anyway, Hawkeye has, I think I've given it enough time to where people should have seen it by now without giving out spoilers. But it's one of the 6-part episodes on Disney Plus. Here we go again with we're not sponsored, but you should definitely go get Disney Plus to watch it, because it's out of, there's 4 or 5 Disney Plus shows from Marvel now, and this was one of the better ones. I thought I can't even remember her name. Kate Barton's the actress who plays Kate Barton, whose name
Kate Bishop?
escapes me. Kate Bishop, thank you. Barton is Clint Barton, which is very confusing. Haley Steinfeld, who was in Bumblebee as the main character. She was in a bunch of other stuff that I had no idea. Pitch Perfect, True Grit.
Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Oh, that's right. She played Gwen Stacy in the animated Spider-Verse movies. Very well done by her. Very nice portrayal of Kate Bishop. It's always nice to see her on screen. I'm a fan. But Hawkeye, it's after Endgame, so he's dealing with the loss of Black Widow, and he's dealing with the after effects of what he did during Endgame, which was having to go around and basically murder a bunch of mob people like Yakuza and the cartel and all that stuff, which I still don't understand that part of Endgame. But
there was that line in Hawkeye where he says, I felt that it was the truth. Something like, basically he said that he felt like he was dueling out justice, because what Thanos
they
did,
were there and other people were
the good
not.
people disappeared just as much as the bad people, but there were all these bad people that should have disappeared too.
Yeah.
So he was making them disappear.
So, big twist, in episode 5, where we actually get the live action Netflix characters into the Marvel Cinematic Universe finally. So we actually get to see who is actually behind all of the shenanigans of this show, which ended up being Vincent D'Onofrio's Wilson Fisk from the Daredevil show on Netflix, which was awesome to see. A little disappointing. He didn't really have the same gumption as like his Netflix portrayal. It felt a little bit softer. And I think it's just because it's Disney, and Disney needs to play some stuff safe, especially with kids watching the show and stuff. So because Daredevil was definitely over more on the mature side than it was. I think it was PG-13, but it was definitely more towards the R side of stuff. But it's still a good show. There was a lot of callbacks to the movies, like with the Pym particles and Ant-Man. There was callbacks to the first Avengers movie, which was the what do they call it? The Steve Rogers musical, which made me cringe, and I guess a lot of people really liked it, and they want like a Steve Rogers musical on Broadway, but it made me very uncomfortable because it was not written really well, the music, coming from someone who actually likes some of the musicals. But I can't really say much more about it. It's you got some new characters, you got some old characters that haven't been in the MCU yet, and I kind of want to see how they all tie together, because we haven't really seen anything of these Disney shows tied together in any sort of format. They've all just kind of been individual standalone pieces, and I want to see where they go from there, because there hasn't been a team up movie for Marvel until May, because Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness got pushed 2 months, so we won't get that next in March, but we'll get it in May. So we'll see what happens, and we'll see if Hawkeye is going to be in the movie. I doubt it. I was kind of hoping for like a Spider-Man cameo at the end of Hawkeye, because you had that scene at the end of Far From Home or No Way Home where he's flying over Christmas time at the Rockefeller Center where episode 6 takes place. So I was kind of hoping for a little Spider-Man cameo at the end of that, but nope. So I don't know. We'll see where they all laid up, because I'm interested. There's like I said, there's 4 or 5 shows now, and none of them have like kind of linked together.
I do have a question about Vincent D'Onofrio as Kingpin. Do you think that, I mean, granted, he only had a limited amount of time. There was only, 6 episodes of this series, and he was only in, 1 and a part of it?
Well, they just showed his picture at the end of the 5th episode.
Exactly, and then he was in that last episode. For me, when I saw it, I loved every moment that he was on screen. It was just, it kind of felt like he didn't, because like in Daredevil, he's got a lot more screen time, obviously. This one, it just felt like he didn't have that much screen time, and then at the end, there's that shot where supposedly he gets dead.
Yeah.
So, I just feel like he was wasted. I'm hoping he comes back in another show or movie, but
I have a feeling. After watching what happened at No Way Home, because I still don't like talking about it until it's out on like movie DVD, because you never know who hasn't seen it. I know a few people who listen to this podcast who haven't seen it, so we'll see. I really hope he makes a comeback, and I hope it's better than the Disney Plus outing, but
I'm sure it will be. I have a lot of faith in. Well, I got a lot of faith in MCU right now.
Yeah,
I
we'll
am
see.
curious because it is a TV show. I'm very curious. So I don't watch a ton of Marvel stuff, but I will say I loved WandaVision when it was originally releasing. Me and my girlfriend were really into that. We loved watching it because it was watching Wanda's personal journey throughout that show was really cool. And in addition to that, like, as somebody who doesn't watch that stuff, there wasn't a lot of stuff that tied into that movie. Like, I could that show, I could go into that not having seen anything, and I still got a lot out of it. Do you think that's the same for Hawkeye, or do you think this is a show that depends on you seeing the Marvel movies?
No. So out if you're gonna rank, because there's 4 right now, Jimmy. There's 4 shows.
WandaVision, WandaVision,
Falcon, Soldier, What If, and Hawkeye.
Yeah, so that's 4.
4. Okay, so out of the 4,
I
would
Loki.
say,
There's 5.
Oh, and Loki, right? Okay, so out of the 5, I would say WandaVision. I would say What If would be one of the ones that you don't really have to watch any other Marvel property to kind of understanding of what's going on, and then I would say like WandaVision, because WandaVision, you kind of have to know like kind of what's going on, because they do a little bit of a flashback of like what happened at the end of Infinity War with Vision. Definitely when Falcon and the Soldier, Winter Soldier, you kind of have to know what's going on. It's all about how Bucky and Sam, thank you, Wilson, taking over the Captain America mantle. Loki, you don't really have to know what's going on. You just kind of had to know what happened at the during Endgame, because that's Endgame Loki. It's not real Loki. So you don't really have to know what's going on with Loki. And then Hawkeye, Yeah, because there's a lot of callbacks to like Endgame and Infinity War and
Black Widow.
even the original Avengers movie.
Don't forget Black Widow.
And yeah, and Black Widow. Yeah, because there is a character that gets brought in that's from the Black Widow movie, and if you don't really know why she's there, but it's weird because like it's not like when you watch like the Star Wars shows, like if you watch Mandalorian, you don't really have to watch Star Wars to watch Mandalorian. It's about a bounty hunter pretty much who does jobs for money, and you don't really have to know any backstory about it. Book of Boba Fett, which is what's on right now on Disney Plus, it's coming out weekly right now. Kind of have to know a little bit of what's going on, but you don't need to watch all of the Star Wars movies to know what's going on with Boba Fett. Just like the original 3. Not even the original 3. Like maybe the last one, like episode 6. But that's kind of the whole thing with the those Disney Plus shows, and a lot of them are like that, where they take place in that universe, and you kind of need to know what's going on, but you don't really need to know what's going on. You just kind of have a little bit of knowledge, and you can still watch them. You can still get entertained. I bet you might like Loki. Did you watch Loki?
I did not, but it sounded like it. I remember it being all over TikTok. It reminded me very much of WandaVision. That it seemed like a show people could just get behind and get into because it was a really just fun and or cool vibe.
Yeah, Loki would be one. Loki and What If, I would say, if you haven't watched those and you don't watch a lot of Marvel, you could watch those and still be entertained. Especially if you like anthologies, because that's what If is. What If is an anthology show. It's a different story every episode.
Okay. Well, it's definitely good to know going into that. Also good to know Disney's still making all those good Marvel shows and all that stuff. And Jimmy, so what did you see this week?
Well, over the past few weeks, I've been watching a show that is sort of like Hawkeye as far as being a superhero show and tied into, I guess, the superhero movie world, except it's not Disneyfied. It is very much an adult series. It's called Peacemaker. Mm-hmm. It is the spin-off show from James Gunn's hit movie this past year, The Suicide Squad. It follows John Cena's character, Christopher Smith, aka Peacemaker, and basically it takes off right after The Suicide Squad. Picking up where The Suicide Squad left off, Peacemaker returns home after recovering from his encounter with Bloodsport, only to discover his freedom comes at a price. So, if you're worried that you need to see The Suicide Squad to enjoy the Peacemaker show, you don't. Don't get me wrong, I think you should see it. The Suicide Squad was so much better than the original Suicide Squad. James Gunn is an amazing writer and director, and he's the same guy that did Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2. So he's got that weird sense of humor, and it's baked into this show. If you haven't seen The Suicide Squad, the first episode of Peacemaker opens with "Last Time on The Suicide Squad" and gives you just like those flash, like on old TV shows where they're like last week on whatever, Rescue Me or something, and they give you that synopsis. They gave you a synopsis of The Suicide Squad, catches you up on the important things that have to do with Peacemaker, and then it cuts to a hospital where Peacemaker's recovering from his injuries. And it opens with him getting released from the hospital thing because he was part of the Suicide Squad. So he was part of the Suicide Squad. He thought he got out of it, and then he just gets wrapped up again into this new group who were basically, like Ned says in Spider-Man, the guy in the chair. Now he's part of a team of the guy in the chair. And he has to work with them to basically take out these things called the butterflies. They are basically the government says these guys are dangerous, and Peacemaker has to go assassinate them. The cast the crew that he's working with is the boss is Clemson Mern, a former Special Forces guy who has a secret backstory working for the government, but he's trying to become a better person and develop his feelings. You have Amelia Harcourt. She is just basically a badass who is on the team. Every time Peacemaker tries to hit on her, she's hates him, basically. And then one of my favorite characters is Leota Adebayo, played by Danielle Brooks. She is basically brand new to this whole spy game thing, and she's there for unknown reasons. Basically, Amanda Waller, the boss of the Suicide Squad from the last two movies, said, "You're part of the team," end of story. The rest of them are on this team because they're in trouble for stuff that happened during the Suicide Squad. Outside of the team, you have Vigilante, played by Freddie Stroma. He has the same idea of killing for peace, but he's a huge nerd. He is hilarious. He is one of the funniest things in this show outside of Peacemaker. And the show it's got the James Gunn's like comedy mixed with a lot of heart and dealing with also very heavy issues like racism, straight up racism. The janitor calls Peacemaker the racist supervillain in the beginning, and he's like, "I'm sorry, it just." Basically they get into this conversation about racism and policing. He's like, "All right, I'll start, killing more white people if that makes you happy." So, yeah, it is this straight up James Gunn show, and I have nothing but good things to say about it. And the opening credit scene is the best opening credits for any TV show ever. And if you haven't seen it, I recommend you at least watch that if you don't watch the TV show, actually. It doesn't even really match the tone of the rest of the show, but I would highly recommend it. I don't want to get into too many spoilers, but it's definitely worth a watch. But don't let the kids watch it.
Yeah, so I am curious about it on that note, because when I've seen a few trailers for it, and oddly enough, it kind of reminded me of a mix between like Invincible and The Boys, but without like the extreme violence, if that makes sense. Does it?
You say without?
I don't know. I didn't see that much violence in the trailers I was watching.
Well, trailers don't
correct me if I'm
show.
wrong. Yeah,
trailers don't normally show that amount of violence, but it's right up there with The Boys.
Cool.
The Boys, yeah,
it
would be like The Boys. I agree.
Mm-hmm. Except I don't know. It seemed a bit more funny to me. Maybe I don't know if that's true about it.
It's definitely more funny. There's where the team is basically rearresting Peacemaker in his trailer. That's like very redneck America trailer. Mern is introducing the entire team to Peacemaker, and he gets to Adebayo, and she just starts giving this speech like you would if you just joined a marketing team or something like that. And this is a bunch of assassins, and it's so out of place, but it's hilarious. Oh, I forgot to mention the most important character is Peacemaker's sidekick, Eagly. He's an eagle. He is adorable, and I wish I had a dog like him.
Alrighty. Well, on that note, let's move into our last little segment here. We don't have any pilot wings this week, unfortunately, but we do have Jimmy here, who his whole reason for honestly being here is to give us a little rundown on a short film he's making very soon. And on that topic, Jimmy, why don't you talk about your film a little bit?
All right. So the film that I'm working on is called Police 3. Mm-hmm. It deals with mental health in the military, more specifically Air Force Security Forces, because that's something that I know a little bit about. And it basically deals with PTSD, mental health, all this trauma. It's meant for It's about a 7-minute long film. It's not like a feature length. It's intended to go to film festivals once completed, and then probably distribute online somehow. The story is Staff Sergeant Bailey is posted alone. She just got divorced. All her trauma is basically built up to this point where she was going to kill herself. And she gets interrupted by an unexpected guest. And her unexpected guest is a friend from long ago named Airman Smith. Bailey is played by this incredible actress named Meg Wells. She's appeared on stuff like a short film called Red that ended up in a few film festivals. I'm drawing a blank on the other ones, but there's a whole list. I actually got to see her act in a series that is being worked on in Hartford called Beige, and she did a pretty good job. That's kind of the reason I asked her if she'd be interested in this. And she has done a lot of research because she's not military. She's met with a military advisor who's a female tech sergeant currently serving in the Air Force, because I can't speak for what it's like to be a female NCO or what the stressors are. So we met with her. We're putting all the props together, getting all our cast and crew together. Matt Mintz is playing Airman Smith. Matt's background is stand-up comedy, actually. He's done some acting, but the idea is Airman Smith is supposed to be, he's happier. He's that hope that is going to be the conflict between Sergeant Bailey's depression, anxiety, PTSD, and then you got Airman Smith, who represents something better. Matt, he met with our military advisor, or a military advisor who also was an airman in the Air Force and in security forces. He's a professional, an amazing podcaster, I guess. His name was Andrew Cullen.
Yeah, right.
And I think Andrew can, speak to, we covered stuff that Andrew and I went through in the military, and the perspective of basically being an airman in security forces and what your priorities are, your stresses are. Our plan is to film in February. We have a GoFundMe set up. We're trying to raise the money because our goal is to try to make this as authentic and cinematic as possible, and then release it to film festivals. And at the end of the short film, there'll be resources for those who are active duty, Guard, Reserve, and veterans, because we're all in this together. We all went through stress. Who served? I feel like this film is going to help people realize that they're not alone in whatever trauma they dealt with, because we're not. I posted this, and I've been getting a lot of responses from those I served with that I didn't know were in such dark places.
Yeah, so on that topic, this overall does seem like a very personal story to you. And I've read the script, and it feels very personal.
You acted in the original one.
We'll get to that in a second. Is this based on like an experience you've had in the past, or is this like a collection of different like things you felt or experiences you've heard from other people? Like, how did you come to this idea?
So it's kind of a mix, I guess. When I was I went through a lot of my own personal demons and stressors, and I'm probably dealing with some now. Mm-hmm. But I've seen a lot of people struggle while I was in, and some people didn't make it, unfortunately. I wrote this film in a way that I hope it can speak to not just like myself, who only went to the Gulf Coast countries in the Middle East, like Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and UAE. I want this to speak to people that also went to Iraq, Afghanistan, or people that never left the missile fields. I want this to be something that speaks to anyone that served, regardless of if they saw combat or not, because all of us have dealt with some kind of stress one way or another in the military, because it's not an easy job. It's not. Like, I mean, it sounds easy on paper, but it's mentally difficult to be away from your family for multiple days, for multiple months. So yeah, I would say some of it is me. Meg was great. She asked for a backstory of her character, so I wrote her 30 pages that explained the past 10 years, and a lot of that was personal stuff that I witnessed. There was other stuff in there that I know other people went through. So in some ways, yeah, it was based off of me.
Yeah. So you also mentioned earlier that this is something you've already shot, and I remember this because I was acted in it.
Mm-hmm. We did a fantastic job.
God, what do you hope to gain right now by reshooting it? Like, what do you think you can do differently now that you weren't able to do then?
Well, I would say I'm a better director, I hope. But the thing is, when you, me, and the others filmed this, Malcolm was also out there with us. It was just the four of us. I'm drawing a blank on who was helping me with the camera, but we were out there in the cold. We just had my Nikon. Lighting was trash. Audio was trash. But that was our sophomore year, I think, and we were still very much learning how to do things. This time, and I still somehow managed to get into the Mystic Film Festival. This time, I believe I can do a better job because I did a rewrite, because I went through some stuff this past year that knocked me off my feet. And my hope is that having that adds some more authenticity to the script, but also by hiring real actors. Nothing against you, Brandon, but you're
everything against me.
You belong behind the camera with me.
Yes.
But bringing in two incredible actors, bringing in Kewan Harrison, who is an awesome director of photography. He co-runs a production company here in Connecticut called 10 Out of 10 Productions, and they've sent stuff to film festivals. They worked on projects for the Bushnell in Hartford. They're right now trying to work on making a TV show. They made a pilot. Now they're trying to get people on board. So to get Kewan on board is an incredible jump. On top of that, we're working on getting, a makeup artist and a sound person, because from our personal history, I'm pretty sure we both are terrible at sound. So, by hiring professionals to make this look better, by buying gear that as closely matches security forces gear, by, renting a car that security forces would use, trying to make this look as authentic as possible, I think it will, speak to more people, because, we get into more film festivals that hopefully will reach out to not just military, but the civilian population. Because before talking to me, I'm sure you didn't know how high the suicide rate was within the military community. Was it up to 22 a day? That's terrible. That rate is higher than in the civilian world. And there's a lot of reasons for that. And my 7-minute film is not going to address all those reasons. My hope is that it helps people realize that need help, that they're not alone, and there are places to reach out to. That their career is not the most important thing in the world. Their life is. I mean, Andrew and I can attest, eventually the Air Force goes away. Whether it's out of choice, like myself, not choice, or whatever, it's not always going to be there for you. So you shouldn't treat it like it's your life. Your life is your life. But then on top of that, the conversation needs to also be held outside of the military community, because the government's not going to do anything, like Congress or the military is not going to do anything without any external pressure. So if the actual population starts talking about it, then maybe the mentality of leadership in the military will change. But my movie can start the conversation.
Yeah, and on that note, I read the script. I love the changes you made to it through all of that, and I think it's a great concept. You did mention a little bit that before that people were reaching out to you to talk about their stories and all that kind of stuff. Where can people reach you if they do want to reach out, or if they do want to help, perhaps support you?
Okay. Well, I mean, if you're watching this podcast, you probably have an idea of where we have a lot of our stuff. Name Pending Productions is our Facebook, YouTube page. It's kind of where we put a lot of our content, whether it's podcasts like this one or Poulin's. I'm drawing a blank. Sports and nonsense, or comedy content because we do that, and we also post updates about this film where our GoFundMe is, where our t-shirt store is because we do have one. And by supporting like that GoFundMe, it can really help the movie become a reality because it's not cheap. I hate to say it. Like, I wish it was cheap. I wish it would just grab my Nikon and film something, but you need a lot of professionals to make a film worthwhile. And talent, I mean, though I'm getting discounts because they believe in the cause, at the end of the day, I still got to pay them for their time. So, that being said, yeah, you can hit up our GoFundMe. I'm sure there'll be a link to it when we post this video. Check out our YouTube page. Check out our Facebook page. Just look up Name Pending Productions. We're on the Twitter. We're on the Facebook. We're on the YouTube. We're all over the place. Just like us, follow us, share whatever you like. Seriously, if you like something, share it. Like it, comment. I will respond because I have nothing better to do.
I was literally thinking that. I was going to say that, you son of a gun.
No, I actually like interacting with the people. But, yeah. Tell me what you think. Even if it's something that I disagree with. We got comments that why don't military people star in this instead of actors? And
yeah,
because military people don't know how to act. Not all of them. And these two actors, I think, can do the roles justice.
Yeah, speak for yourself.
What, you want to play security forces number again?
Okay. Well, that's all the questions I had for today. Andrew, do you have any questions for Jimmy, or we can just take this into the wrap?
We'll have that link down in the description of the video for YouTube. It'll be in the description for the post on the audio version from Spotify, iTunes, podcasts, and CastBox. So it should pop up as an actual link, but if not, just copy and paste it into your web browser. Yeah. And every little bit helps.
Every little bit helps.
Because, coming, like Jimmy had said, coming from experience, I've had a lot of experience with this kind of stuff, whether it be myself or with other people that I know that have been in the military or who are unfortunately no longer with us. So definitely something to get behind and to bring awareness to, because not a lot of people are aware that are civilians. So
yeah, 100%. Okay, well, let's move into the wrap up. Jimmy, I know what you're plugging already right off the bat. Andrew, do you have anything you want to plug?
Sports and Nonsense is going to come back eventually. I know I say this about every week, and it's the playoffs for football, but I'm trying to get, like, I think I'm going to have a lot more free time. I'm just so stressed out over school.
Yeah.
Especially with this class that I'm in right now, because this class that I'm in right now is, like, extremely hard. And also, if I fail a class, I have to wait 4 months to rejoin the class. It's not it's not like I just go in the next month and be like, I'm here again. No. So I am putting in a lot of effort to make sure that I pass all of my classes. So hopefully we'll record this week. I'll reach out to Rich and ask him about it. So
good to know. And I'm gonna plug the Sesame Street movie. Go see the Sesame Street movie, because if you don't, I'm definitely seeing it in the following week, because it sounds so good. I have to see. I have to know if it's as good as it sounds.
That's the other thing, is like there's just no movies that's like catching my attention, that it's like making me want to go to the theater.
Remember how I mentioned at the start of the month that January and February are famously dead months? This is what I meant.
Well, it's funny because there was a movie I was gonna go watch, but it got delayed. So
yeah, it really do be like that, unfortunately.
So
okay,
there might be some movies that have been out for a while that I'll go see. I know there's a couple of them. So.
Yeah, we shall see. Or maybe we can do a dual episode and we both watch the Sesame Street movie.
Could do that.
Whatever works.
I'll go watch it at like 9:00 at night when there's no kids.
I mean, hey, at least where I'm at right now, nobody goes to the movies anymore, so I got theater all to myself. It's great.
No, it gets packed in Florida. People in Florida don't care.
Florida folks do not care. Alrighty. Well, on that note, thank you all for watching The Filmmaker's Basement. I'm Brandon.
Andrew.
And Jimmy.
And we will see you all next time. Goodbye, all.